And look what I have for you here today. It's the System 76 Galago Pro. It's new to me. I picked it up on eBay and I picked it up for a steal, and that's really what this video is going to be about. We'll get into the Galago Pro here and some of its awesome features, but this video is going to be about tips and tricks and showing you how you can get tech for really cheap, because we love lots of tech. We're geeks, but it's expensive and most of us are independently wealthy. We work hard for our money, so we have to somehow figure out how to get a fund going and things for our tech and not drain the bank, and getting things used is definitely a great way to do that. I buy most of my stuff nowadays on eBay, and that's because you've got buyer protection out there that's pretty good. It's not the best in the world. It used to be terrible, but it's much better now. And you have, reputation of sellers and things that you can look at to make sure you're buying from somebody reputable and looking at their feedback and making sure that they are taking care of their customers. But for the most part, 99.9% of the time, I've had fantastic luck. Now, when I'm looking for a laptop, especially one with fantastic specs like this one that has just some incredible amount of power in it, you're generally going to be looking at $700–800 plus for something like this. Now, what I did is I looked for ones that had damage or things that weren't working properly. The other thing you can look for is kids in college who sell computers and they put stickers all over it. That drops hundreds of dollars of value, and lots of people don't bid on them because they don't want to deal with getting rid of the stickers. But we could deal with that easy. Just take some acetone, citrus-based cleaner, mineral spirits, something like that. Look it up online and, test a little spot depending on the type of material the case is, and remove all those stickers and the residue, and you have a brand new computer. The other thing you can look for is things that are easy to fix, like battery issues or charging problems and things like that. Now, not all of them are easy. Sometimes you get one and you think it's, I'll just replace the battery or whatnot, and it ends up being something major. But for the most part, if you look for something that can boot and that can run an OS, they have screenshots of that, then you're probably dealing with something where the hardware is okay, and you just need to focus on some of the simple, fixes like replacing batteries, or replacing a RAM stick or a hard drive or those type of things. That's the other thing a lot of people like to do nowadays because of privacy, is not include a hard drive. Well, that's so easy to replace. Now, getting into a big computer can be daunting, and working on them, getting onto a laptop, people don't want to touch them, but the reality is they're the same components inside, just squished together. Really, the only exception, even though the rule's still the same, is a MacBook, and that's only because you're not dealing with screws and plastic. A lot of times you're dealing with glue. Depending on the year, you're dealing with a MacBook, which makes it a much bigger pain in the butt, and you need things like heat guns and stuff to get those components out. But for the most part, these Clevos, System 76 like laptops, Dells, HPs, they are very, very easy to work with. So one of the ones that I recommend that you take a look at. So the System 76 Galago Pro, isn't it lovely? Oh my gosh. Look at this. We have ports, unlike a Mac. Imagine that. No dongles needed. 3 USB ports here. Of course, we have our MMC memory card port, SD slot. We've got a microphone, headphone jack on that side, HDMI port, Thunderbolt port, Ethernet port, our AC adapter. Look at this ventilation on the back. Isn't that beautifully done? Absolutely gorgeous. I think that's a laptop locker there. And then this is, of course, the back. So we've got the System 76 Galago UltraPro. This is the Gala 1 edition. So they have a Gala 2 edition, I believe, out there. Maybe Gala 3, I don't know. But this is an awesome laptop. Now, one of the things, and I hope they fix this in later ones, is the System 76 sticker. You can see with that T there, it's just a sticker. I wish they would laser that in. And I know they got lasers down at System 76, so I'm guessing their newer laptops will have that lasered in. Again, this is older. So, that's the only real defect of the look of the laptop I don't like. Otherwise, this laptop is incredibly gorgeous. I mean, look at that nice, large trackpad. That's a must for me. The other quirk or thing I don't like is no backlit keyboard here. So that's a frustration. I think some of the newer ones or some of their other lines have that backlit keyboard, but this one does not. And that is something that I really like. We got a 1920 by 1080 screen here. Ooh, ah. But this isn't just about the Galago Pro. I'm not showing this off just yet. This is about issues that you can run into. I want to show you something really interesting. Now, the person who sold this said it doesn't hold a charge. You can run it on AC adapter, and the keyboard's starting to rise. Well, I know that when the keyboard starts to rise, that generally means and it's not charging. Those are two clues that tell me the battery's swelling, and that's why the keyboard's starting to come up here, which you can maybe see a little bit. It's just lifting slightly there. You've got battery swelling issues, and the battery probably needs to be replaced. With a lot of laptops, you can simply snap out the old battery, order a new one, and slap it back in, meaning they're meant to come out. In this one, they have it basically screwed in underneath the cover of the laptop. And I was able to order this from China for like 30 bucks. And this is the replacement battery, and it's just got that one little cable right there that we'll need to install, and you've got your screws here. So in this case, it's a little more difficult to replace this battery, but I'm assuming they did that to try to save on some of the weight and things, having all the additional plastic of a battery that comes out and all of that. Look at these speaker grills too. They did such a good job on that, but the speakers unfortunately leave a lot to be desired, but there's certainly a space here for some great speakers. You can customize it, I guess, yourself there. But in any case, I'm going to get into this laptop. We're going to take off the screws, show you how unexciting it really is to do this. It's really simple and you can save tons of money. Again, with the laptop and this $30 battery, I'm going to be in this maybe, let's just say 400 bucks, but you couldn't get a laptop with specs like this, which I'll have on the screen, for that cost very easily anyways. And plus, you get the kind of bragging rights of having a System 76 laptop, even though it's a Clevo at this point, but they are starting to manufacture their own laptops. I hear little rumors of that. So we got a nice Core i7 here. I think it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM. And it has an SSD drive. I may add an additional drive when I get in there as well, because I know a lot of these laptops, especially the Pros, have room for extra hard drives that you can put in. There is no CD drive in here, which is fantastic because who uses that crap anymore? And here we go. Let's get into this thing. So for the most part, all laptops are created equal. There will be screws here. Sometimes they will hide screws under feet if you're not having the cover come up off easily. And in this case, we have a ton of screws that we need to take out. And I don't have the exact build specs of this machine that I can download to figure out which screws take out what, because some of these, like generally in the middle, they can sometimes be specific to just the keyboard itself. But the reality is I don't care. I'm just going to take all the keys out, and then if I need to, all the screws out, and if I need to put something back in, it's just a matter of making sure everything's in place, folding it back down, and putting the screws back in, which I'll show you here shortly. So let's get these screws out. The most important thing about screws is remembering where they go. Sometimes on these laptops, they will use different size screws. Sometimes the ones like, especially Mac likes to do this, on the back of the machine, they'll have longer screws. In the front, they'll have different size screws. So you want to make sure that you place your screws, I like to because I'm nice and gentle, place my screws around the laptop so I know about approximately where they go back. Some people like to use little cup holders that they label, or baggies that you label. If this is the first time you're doing something like this, upgrading RAM, hard drive, whatever on a laptop, then definitely just take the time to record it, number one, so you can remember how to put it back together. And you're like, oh my gosh, where did this little tiny piece of plastic go that I don't remember? You could just hit the footage and you would be right back in business. So that's an awesome thing to do as well. Okay, so once we have all of the screws out, or we think we do, go take a flashlight. I use several different screwdrivers because some of them were torqued in there pretty good. Definitely get yourself a good set of computer screwdrivers at your local hardware store like a Fry's, or order them off Amazon, because they come super in handy, and you don't want things that are magnetized and stuff. As a general rule, it's just not a good idea around computers. So, especially if you're working on older computers that have spinning discs and that stuff. So now this lid just kind of lifts right off. There are some screws still in here. If you're not, the thing with computers is there's kind of everything's about being gentle. Sometimes you may have to firmly kind of pry around the edges, but pay attention. Take your time when you're removing covers and things to make sure you don't have additional screws that you miss. Take a flashlight and go through the screw holes and make sure you've got all of the screws released that you need to. If you're having to tug or pry or pull, you're going to break something. There also sometimes are cords that can be attached to this cover. So lift gently and kind of look what you're dealing with underneath. There are no cords attached to this cover. Fantastic. So now we move that to the side, and this is the inside of the computer. Well, if you ever play Tetris, this is going to be pretty easy because you can kind of see This part looks like it goes here. That must be the battery. That must be what I need to remove. Also looking inside here, we've got two fans. Look like they could use a little bit of cleaning. So we've got some dust spray here we can use to get some of that dust out. Now don't spin the fans up while you're doing this. Put your finger in and make sure that the fans aren't spinning because you'll break the bearings. And just give them a nice little brush there. I stupidly laid the screws out around the table, so I almost blew the screws off of the table. So that's why you probably want a better screw management system that I have here. You can even tape these screws down in their positions, of course, around the laptop. But for me, I'm not too worried about that. But I did notice here right away when we open this that there is an extra hard drive bay right here. So this looks like a fantastic place to mount a new hard drive for this computer. So now I have two hard drives in here and expand the space. And because I'm a geek, we have them in stock all day long from other laptops that we've taken out. So this is a little 250 gigabyte Scorpion I think I took out of a HP laptop out there. So this looks like it would pop right in. Fantastic! We now have that in there. There's no mounting places that I see for this. We may be missing some type of bracket or something like that. So I'll have to figure out how to maybe get some screw holes in here or do something to get that mounted a little more firmly. But we're here to focus on, this is just an upgrade. We're here to focus on this laptop battery here. So let's go ahead and get this battery out. Now here's my connector. Remember, gentle is the key. You don't want to touch any of these components here with metal. You want to be very gentle when you're prying things in and out. This is a delicate process, but it's easy. So we know in looking at our replacement battery that we ordered that this is our only connection cable. It matches that connection cable. Yay, we ordered the right part. So now we need to pry that connection cable out, get the screws out, put the new battery in, put the screws back in, connect that cable up, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so now we have that cable out. Let's take our screws out. And I could tell we're missing some screws here from this battery, which tells me this laptop's been worked on before. These batteries probably have a high propensity of failure. And this is our battery, and you can see, I can feel it immediately, the swelling on this battery. It's starting to lift from its cage, but you can feel it's puffy all over the place, letting us know this battery has definitely met its day, and is why it's kind of starting to push up ever so slightly on the keyboard. We've got a perfect fit here, so let's get this screwed back down nice and tight. If you have extra screws, this would be a good time that happen to fit this size to get those in place. And now we just connect this connector back up. Interesting, as I'm looking through this laptop, getting to RAM and things, which generally you see immediately on these type of computers, is underneath this board. And it looks like a lot of the screws that we removed actually hold this board into place as well. This is rather unique. I don't see this very often. Generally, the cover isn't holding together all of these components, including probably the keyboard if we lifted the circuit board out. But you would need to take all of this out to get to the RAM potentially, which is kind of a dumb design. Alright, so now our new battery is hooked up and we have this screwed in. We have our hard drive in here. It's not super secure, but I'm guessing with the pressure of this case here, since it holds everything together, we're not going to have too many problems with the mounting here. So I may go in later and, like I said, maybe put some holes in here if there are some screws visible, or find a bracket for this Clevo that was meant for the extra hard drive so that we can get that mounted more securely. But my laptops don't move around a whole ton of a lot, and they definitely don't get shooken. So with that being said, I think it'll be fun. So what have we learned here? Well, repairing laptops is not all that daunting. It's all the same components inside of a desktop, but it's all compacted in. Take your time. A lot of times you can go to different websites that have people who've torn down laptops. For instance, you may be watching this because you got yourself this exact laptop, and you could see them take it and tear it down, watch it a few times so you kind of memorize it. And then when you start actually taking things apart, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's not as scary. That's just, you know, the connector to the hard drive. That's just the RAM. That's just this area. So things will be a little less daunting and scary for you if you take your time. You don't try to pry things or break. You don't rush yourself. Make sure you've got a good amount of time to work on this so you're not feeling rushed. And that's the big key, is taking your time, writing down where these components, or videoing where these components go, so that if you get stuck or something doesn't make sense anymore because you got frustrated because other things weren't working, you've got an easy way to go back and remember where that piece went and how it was connected. All right. Assuming we did everything right, we now have no more swelling on the keyboard. That line is nice and clean there. That's looking good. We've got to get some power up in there, so the new battery may not have any charge at all. So let's get our power connected. Now remember, I told you this didn't come with a power connector, so I purchased this Zozo from Amazon. I looked up that the Galago Pro needed the 19 volts. So this one goes up to 90 watts and has the 19 volt adapter here, which fit perfectly with this laptop. My guess is they might have burnt out this battery by using the wrong adapter. Good for us, bad news for them. So we can see we've got some charging lights here. Yay, it's not burning on fire, so there's that. And our machine booted. No smoke. Yay! Alright, let's log in and I can show you the specs of this beautiful machine here. And we could check and see if our hard drive is also good to go. Let me raise this up for you. Alright, so this is Kubuntu 18.04 that I have on this. So let's go to About, System. And so we see we have an Intel Core i7-4770HQ CPU at 2.20 gigahertz, 15.6 gigabytes of RAM. Awesome. 1920 by 1080 screen. We now have 2 hard drives in here. Let's see if the other hard drive is recognized. We may have to format it. I don't remember what it had on it before. So it does show up as the 200 gigabyte hard drive, and looks like it was a Linux partition there. So we could have, if the boot order wasn't set correctly, ended up booting into that other hard drive potentially. But I'll probably just end up formatting that additional hard drive, but it shows up. Everything is working. Isn't this machine lovely and beautiful? Yes, it is. And we just gave it tons more power. We have 0.5 terabyte of storage on this now in total. We have an SSD, a spinning drive as a backup. We've got a brand new battery. Now before, the battery would show completely red here, as in it could not charge. And now I'm showing I actually have some battery power. So here's the real test. If I take out the AC adapter, Look at that. It doesn't turn off anymore. Before you'd pull out the AC adapter, it would automatically turn off. We don't have a lot of charge, about 58%, but the battery works. Everything is looking solid now. So we'll let that charge up fully. And we will now have a fully capable laptop for less than you would get, I don't know, an Xbox for. Less than your grocery bill maybe sometimes too, depending if you have a big family or not. I've only got 4 people in my house, and the grocery bill every other week or so ends up being about the cost of this laptop. So it's quite amazing to get that much power for this kind of price. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope this helps you be able to get more tech gear in your life in the future. And until next time, get out there and get some good tech gear and fill your brains.
Don't get too small. Does not like the video.